Welcome to the Caddo Convos, the podcast that explores the vibrant community of businesses thriving in Caddo Office Reimagined. We're here to shine a light on the incredible entrepreneurs and professionals who make the most of our private offices, co-working spaces, and day office rentals in the Dallas-Fort Worth suburbs. Join us as we share their stories, celebrate their successes, and dive into the benefits of working in a space that's close to home but offers so much more than working from home. Let's get started with today's conversation. Today on Caddo Convos, I'm joined by Katy Encalade of Egg Donor and Surrogate Solutions. Katy, thank you for being here in the studio.
Thank you for having me.
Wonderful. So tell me about your business.
So our business helps create families. So we work with women who are willing to be an egg donor or be a surrogate in order to help a family that without one of those services, they couldn't have a family.
Right. That makes sense. How long have you been in business?
This July will be 18 years.
Oh my goodness. So you've been at it a little while.
We have
our
surrogacy program at first, and then we added our egg donor program in 2012.
How did it get started?
So both programs were started by former egg donors and former surrogates. Our surrogate program was started by a former surrogate. I was in the egg donor business after being an egg donor myself, and then we joined forces together and are able to provide services here in Dallas, but also nationwide, and even we have a lot of families that come internationally to build their families here in the U.S. as well.
Wow. Quick numbers. How many families do you think you've helped? I'm not going to hold you accountable.
A little over 2,000.
2,000. That's a lot of families.
It is a lot of
babies.
It is a lot of babies.
That's wonderful. So how did you get into surrogacy?
So I was a surrogate myself,
right,
actually.
So how did
egg
you
donor
start
was in that world, helping families in that way. And then once I was done building my own family, to be a surrogate, you need to be done having your own kids. I told my husband, there's so many people that need someone to help. Why not be a surrogate? And he said, you want to be pregnant again? I was like, it was fine. And so I was blessed with the opportunity to carry for an amazing family that lives in Houston. We still have a great relationship, but carried for them. And so that's how I got in the field of surrogacy as well.
How do you find more surrogates and donors? I imagine you have all types of website and so on. And
outside of normal education and social media, really the biggest thing is by personal referral. So women that have chosen to be egg donors or chosen to be surrogates tell their friends and family about their experience and about us, particularly as an agency. So that's one of the largest ways and our favorite way to educate women after they've already been in that experience with or they've walked along with somebody else in that. They really understand what it takes, and they typically have a big heart to help in that way. Of course, we're on social media and all of the ways to connect in that as well, but most of it's by word of mouth.
Talk to me about the process from both angles.
So from both angles, I'll start with egg donation. So a family that comes to us is usually referred by their fertility clinic. They have maybe advanced maternal age, or they've just had a cancer diagnosis. And so after chemo, they don't have eggs. And so they come to us, and then we have recruited and educated women. Typically, these women are 21 to 28, and they are healthy. They come from a healthy family background. So they go through an application process and an interview process. We typically accept between 7 and 10% of women that are willing to donate actually can for all of those reasons. So it's not everybody can do it. You have to understand your family health history and then, be free of hereditary conditions and things like that.
A range of things.
Yes. And so they get put into a database. Families get to pick a donor that they'd like to work with. And then that's the biggest way that our team steps in. So they have a coordinator that then walks them through the medical screening, the psychological screening, the legal aspects. So there's always direct donor agreements, lawyers involved. Everybody is setting up paternity and all the things, all the T's are crossed and I's are dotted in that. Then we walk them through the medical process itself. Our agency really also believes in supporting families after the fact. And so we have a good bit of our program that helps. We do a lot of advocacy for the donor-conceived community is what the group of people are called that are born via third-party reproduction.
Interesting.
So that's a big part of what we do, supporting those intended parents after the fact, connecting donors and intended parents if that's what they desire, because maybe their child's curious. So that process is usually 4 to 5 months from start to finish. Someone can donate once. They can donate up to 6 times as kind of an industry standard that we don't go beyond. They are compensated for their time and effort in the process, but all of our donors are just really excited to have gotten the opportunity to help a family in that way.
That makes sense. And so donors and surrogates aren't necessarily the same people.
They are not the same people,
right.
ever, actually.
Yeah. Ever, okay.
ever.
Never.
So
Interesting.
even if someone needed an egg donor and a surrogate, they're going to get 2 separate women to help them in that way.
So every process involves 3, the family, and then a donor and a surrogate, and of course your organization to some
Well,
degree.
sometimes people won't need an egg donor or won't need a surrogate.
Got you. So
you just need a uterus, an egg, and a sperm to have a baby.
Check.
And so sometimes people
Makes sense.
come
Yeah.
and they need 2, but typically that's only about 20% of our client base that actually needs both. Typically that's going to be not typically, but often same-sex males that obviously need both.
So So we heard, is the surrogacy process the same as the donor process?
It is
some similarities. I imagine.
Some similarities.
Yeah.
So there's far more of a personal connection with surrogates. So that matching process is very particular on different types of views. But like, what are expectations for a long-term relationship? I mean, it's sometimes 18 months to 2 years that these families are working together.
Yeah.
What are those expectations around delivery and communication? And so that matching process is a little bit different than in the egg donor program, but the same thing of medical and psychological testing, the legal aspects, and then our team walks them through the entire pregnancy, through OBs and hospitals and delivery, and then we help on the legal end on the backside, and then walk through all the financials as well.
Yeah, it's a really good point, the legal end.
It is.
Because this is a human life.
Yes.
And there's a lot of legal involved in all of that. That's interesting. How's that changed over time? You've been at this for 18 years. I mean, I imagine it's gotten more complicated, simplified in some ways, the process, but more complicated legally?
Correct. So everything is done at the state level. So paternity is done at the state level. Texas is actually a great state to have both an egg donor or a surrogate. We have family code that states when a woman chooses to donate, whoever she's donating to are the parents. You still have what's called a direct donor agreement in place that's clarifying that in case our wonderful state of Texas would like to change that law. We still have legal documents in place that say that. Surrogacy is the same way. Here in Texas, if you are a married couple, it's very easy. A surrogate goes before a judge. They fill out what's called a pre-birth order, where it's saying when this child is born, they belong to this person, not to the surrogate. And of course, if here in the state of Texas, if you're married, then there's always an assumption if you deliver that your husband is the child. So then it circumvents all of that as well.
Interesting. Okay. Yeah.
So it's actually really, believe it or not, it's actually really easy. We don't subscribe to Lifetime movies and the crazy things that you see,
Right.
Especially here in Texas. People always ask me that, like, how do you know somebody won't want to keep the baby? I'm like, they don't.
Yeah.
They're done building their families. I say when I was a surrogate, the best thing, the most impactful part was watching that family hold their baby.
Wow. Let's talk.
That's what mattered.
Yeah. I want to hear 2,000 or so families.
Yeah.
You have to have some really great stories of families that you mentioned cancer and things that they obviously wanted a baby.
Yeah.
Can do any come to mind, obviously, without mentioning names?
Yeah. We have a family that and she was diagnosed with ovarian cancer at 26.
Oh, goodness.
Her and her husband had been married for a year. Going through IVF and an egg retrieval process was not an option for them in order to preserve her fertility.
Yeah.
And so once she got through that and a cancer diagnosis, and they were ready to build their family. And so I met with her, good gracious, over 10 years ago. Like, I still remember meeting with her and talking with her. And we're still in contact today.
Sure.
And so we have really sweet stories. Or, there's a lot of families that I think that's like the biggest misconception, like, oh, it's only for the rich and famous and that sort of thing. And it's not. Like, most of the families that we work with are just like you and I. They've gone through infertility for 5-10 years. You know, they've had 7-8 IVF cycles that have been unsuccessful, and they've had multiple transfers or multiple miscarriages, and they need somebody who's just willing to help and help in that way. So it's a pretty cool experience and thing that we get to do.
That's wonderful. Business. Tell me about I imagine there are different ways, the financial impact or challenge. What should a family be prepared to, how do you help them with that? Resources and whatnot. How does that work? Yeah,
obviously right now it's tougher than it has been in the past. So most families, they're able to take care of the medical, some with insurance, some not. IVF costs, and obviously the chatter around that is big in our industry. Like, can families have access to IVF? Yeah. Unfortunately, most of this process is cash pay. There will be a few companies that will have coverage like around adoption. They might have like a cash pay, $30,000 a year towards that or something. And so families can use it. But for the most part, it's a cash pay. So an average egg donor cycle with everything included, medications, testing and screening, legal fees, all of that is usually around $50,000. Yeah. And surrogacy is, we usually say, between $125 and $175.
Gotcha.
So it's a huge investment for people to make. And a lot of people are like, why? There's other options of building your family. And typically, I let people know, especially someone who's able to carry, like, they still get to have that experience. Yeah. But it's also they know and they understand, and that's a big part of it as well.
Yep. Having a baby is expensive, but there's no way of getting around that. There's an expense associated, but I imagine the baby and the family are priceless. Yeah.
I've never had somebody come back, man, I can't believe we used an egg donor. Man, I can't believe we used a surrogate. Nope, never happened.
It's more of, thank God.
Yes, exactly.
And the family's complete, and they can move on and raise their child and have a wonderful time.
Yeah.
What's the best way to reach you?
Visiting us on social media is a great way to just learn more. We are Create a Happy Family on Instagram and Egg Donor and Surrogate Solutions on Facebook. Obviously, our office is here locally. We don't get to meet with people in person all the time, but sometimes we do, and that's great. And you can find us at createahappyfamily.com.
You mentioned local. So you're a Caddo Office Reimagined member.
Yes.
Why did you choose the Caddo offices, and which one are you at specifically?
We're at McKinney. Our office is there, so we have, our team is actually spread out all over the country. There's 19 of us everywhere, but there's 7 of us here in Dallas, and so it's nice to have, I was just there before, and it's nice, we were all having lunch, so it's nice to have that space where everybody can come. We liked the idea of Caddo in general, the multiple locations. I actually live in Prosper, so on a busy Friday night, there's too many kids rolling through my house. My kids are teens, so they don't always need me, and I need to get something done. I'll run over up to the Prosper office and get some things done just at a quiet space. So I really appreciated the accessibility, even just having an office in McKinney. A few months ago, I had a conference down in Dallas, and I realized, that's like 5 minutes from the Dallas location. So instead of sitting in traffic, because I don't like to do that, I left at 6, got there early and worked at that office. So I really appreciate the flexibility that Caddo gives at multiple locations. And we've had nothing but a good experience with who runs the front desk and how helpful they are. It's been great. That's
fabulous. Parting thoughts, a little bit about your why and what the future looks like for your organization.
That's a great question. We're in like a promising time of helping people. And every year it gets better. Every year we have more people that understand what we do. I mean, I would say when I started this, people were like, egg donation? What do you mean? Or surrogacy, and they'd ask a question that I was like, no, that's not it. But more and more people are hearing about what we do. Also at a time that more and more families, like the numbers are only rising at families waiting till a little bit later in life to have kiddos, which is typically when you need some help and assistance.
You bet.
And so as that's increasing, more people are needed to help. And year over year, we grow. Year over year, we get to help more families. And so I appreciate the opportunity to just share the experience, because sometimes people are like, what is this?
Yes.
And just that little nugget of planting that seed, is this just some way that I can help? We, of course, would love the opportunity to share our experience. A lot of our team has either built their families in this way, they've been egg donors, or they've been surrogates. So we have a lot of like personal experience in that as well.
Yeah, great wealth of knowledge, especially over 18 years
Yes.
of helping that many families.
Yes.
Well, thank you so much for being on Caddo Convos today.
Thank you for having me, buddy.
Thank you for joining us today on the Caddo Convos podcast. A huge shout out to our incredible network of members for making our community vibrant and supportive. If you're looking to boost your productivity and reduce the isolation of working from home, consider joining us at Caddo Office Reimagined. Our spaces are designed to meet your evolving needs, support remote work, and foster a sense of community that's hard to find at home. Whether you're a startup aiming for growth, a freelancer seeking a professional setting, or a company looking to optimize resources, Caddo offers a perfect blend of flexibility and innovation. By joining us, you'll be a part of a dynamic business ecosystem that helps you thrive. For more information, visit caddooffices.com. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time on Caddo Convos.